Hello, hello, hello. This is another episode of the Mental Threads podcast. I think this is episode 139. I'm here with my aunt, Miss Camille Weanquoi. How are we today?
I'm good. How are you?
I cannot complain. I kind of fell asleep some hours earlier, so it's just I'm trying to get myself together. I had a whole laundry list of things to do today, but I think I can still knock it out, and whatnot. Yeah. What's your evening been like today, though? Like everything cool? What you get? What you do?
It's been busy. I was at the dance studio from like 9 this morning to just now. So it's just been a busy day. Saturdays are always busy because it's full of teaching. It's like an all day affair.
Oh, okay, that's cool. And you pretty much mostly teaching like African dance. You're like a ballet dancer. What's your main thing?
Well, I primarily focus on dances of the African diaspora. So like Dunham technique, African dance, Caribbean styles of dance. Uh Styles that come out of Cuba that are rooted in African spiritual or African not spiritual but African dance forms. But I do teach variety of styles. So with the children, I teach them modern and ballet, jazz, a little bit of hip hop, and also like West African dance as well.
Oh, cool. That's amazing. And what got you interested in African dance prior? Was it just like a earlier interest, or just we just influenced by somebody else? Like what's your main focus with African dance?
Well, when I was a little girl, my sister went to a dance school called the La Rock Bay, and I wanted to dance because she was dancing. My mom put me in the dance classes there. And at that particular school, what I know now that I didn't know then, it was rooted in dances of West Africa, Ivory Coast, and a lot of the dance forms were coming out of Africa. And I learned my first dance at like 5 or 6 years old, and I've been hooked ever since.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Is there like any specific region that just kind of called out to you? I know you mentioned Ivory Coast. Was Ivory Coast just the main region that just kind of like really spoke to you? Like, oh wow, this is really intriguing.
No, the I have not one particular region, because Africa is a continent. I always try to tell that when I teach people. They always go, "You teach African dance," and I'm like, "No, I teach specifically West African dance because Africa is a continent. It's full of different countries, tribes, ethnic groups that have their own particular dance forms for their region. So for me, I'm primarily rooted in dances that come out of West Africa. So Senegal, Mali, Guinea, those particular areas, those dance forms are the ones that I really gravitate towards most.
Okay, wonderful. That's great. And I understand that you grew up in New York, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yep. Grew up in the Bronx.
Oh, really? The Bronx? Oh, okay, that's cool. I don't know why. I just like when people just tell me about what boroughs they're from. It's just like I don't know. I just it's hard to really guess and everything. 'Cause I have plenty of friends from New York. Some people say they grew up in the Bronx. Some people say they stay in upstate. Some people say they stay in Brooklyn and Harlem and whatnot. Describe what that experience was like growing up in the Bronx.
Growing up in the Bronx was amazing. New York, everybody always talks about if you make it there, you can make it anywhere. I believe that to be very true. The energy and the essence of New York is a grind mentality. You got to be in it to win it. You've got so many cultures mixed into one area that and it truly is, for lack of a better word, melting pot. I don't like to use melting pot. I like to use a salad or a gumbo, things that we are adding to the dish. So you add your cucumbers, you add your tomatoes, you add your onions, your herbs, your spices, and it makes up this flavorful salad of different people. So you'll like one block, it'll be uh Jamaican music. But if you walk 2 blocks down, is bachata and salsa coming out of, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. Or you might walk down another avenue and you'll run into um people who are Muslim or people who are Buddhist. So it's so wide in ranges of, where people are in their lives, what they connect to. You get such a variety. It was just like that throughout my childhood. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I bet. Like, I grew up on Eastern Charlotte, which is like in a sense kind of like a salad or melting pot, as you said. Actually, salad is what you said. And well, it's just sometimes it could probably see it as like a good thing and a bad thing. I think it's pretty cool because it's like you see all types of cultures, but we're in the South, so we're kind of spaced out in a sense. So it's like when we actually get a little bit closer, sometimes it can be a little bit rowdy and whatnot from time to time. Other one then that is actually pretty cool, from like the Hispanic culture, and just the African cultures and just all types of different groups kind of just sandwiched in a certain area and everything. It's just like it's hard to kind of miss out on like other people, and I feel like that's in itself is a blessing about living in America. And then it's just like I feel like New York kind of holds that up to a high degree because there was a point where like literally all different cultures from all over the world were pulling up to Ellis Island, literally like decades ago. And like then there's still immigrants still pouring in through New York to create a life for themselves and just all over the United States and everything.
Mm.
So like growing up in New York and seeing and being sandwiched in with all this diversity, what do you think is the another important part of diversity that you feel like a lot of people don't realize from your perspective?
Mm. An important part of diversity that people don't realize is that we are not monolithic. Whenever we look at a particular ethnic group or culture, we always assume it is just this particular way, until you've actually indulged or taken part in that person's culture or, you know, ethnic background. I mean, or just even step into the world that they live in. You will never know how diverse it is. It's kind of like assuming everyone from a particular faith does certain things a certain way and that everyone should do it. You're just subscribing to that thought process without actually having the opportunity to sit down with someone from that religious background or spiritual base and really getting an understanding of it. So yeah, I feel like that's really, it's just knowing that people do not operate in one way will allow for you to see the diverse ways of which people engage in the world or just which people are living. Period.
Oh yeah, no, surely. I mean, it's crazy how it's just like like you explained at a young age that you had like an interest in regards to African dance, and like now you're married basically into an African like family in a sense. Like, were you really aiming to like really end up in a family like full of people with that culture, or did it just happen?
That is the funniest question. I never actually looked, I never, that was not my intention. I think sometimes when you just genuinely who you are, sometimes that just happens. I don't it wasn't something I was seeking out. I just wanted to be with someone who was loving and caring. And it just happens to be that I married into a librarian family. And does that and hey, it's a bonus for me. I love y'all. But
No,
yeah,
it's
I've
okay.
never really like looked into that now. I never even connected those dots. I never sought that out. I was just enjoying and embracing the culture within so that I can be able to truly understand it for myself. And I guess that just allowed for me to gravitate towards people who were just living in that way.
Oh, cool. It's crazy how like the world works and stuff of that nature, huh? So like beyond like African dance, growing up and everything, what are some other interests that you had? Because I know it's like like you're a vegan right now, so I'm thinking like, what stage in your life kind of led you into being vegan? But before we go into the vegan question, just want to know like what was
Mhm.
generally like what your interests what were your interests were like growing up in New York?
Oh my gosh, I loved comic books. I was a comic book head. I had a subscription to Marvel Comics, X-Men. So I would get an edition every single, like a comic book every single maybe month. I would get a comic book in the mail, which I would love to just read. I enjoyed writing. I wrote a story when I was in the fifth grade. I wrote a a horror story based off of the Goosebumps books. I wrote my own version.
That's cool.
Yeah, I used to love like imagining. For me, I guess it goes hand in hand with being an artist and being a creative. I loved imagining myself in other worlds and places. It's always hard for people to like for me growing up in the Bronx, being a black girl growing up in the Bronx, I like things that were stereotypically not ascribed to black people growing up in New York. I like to skateboard. I loved skateboarding. I loved comics. I liked writing. Outside of going to dance, these are the things I liked doing, and it was always kind of an opposite from the people who growing up in these communities that are considered like rough and gritty and like I'm over here imagining worlds outside of myself. I loved sci-fi. I truly my favorite show at the time when I was growing up was, X-Files. Loved X-Files. I love things that are, like, out of this world, so when I was a child, watching movies and shows that were, like, out of this world, my favorite TV show was Quantum Leap. Just the thought process of, like, being able to travel into different parts of time and rewrite history or just even observe history, I thought was so cool. So I loved doing things that took me outside of where I was living, where I was.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. Especially in this day and age, I feel like a lot of that geek culture is more acceptable than the black community, and everything. Growing up when I was like in elementary school, because I went to like a Catholic elementary school, so it's just like you're not really exposed to too many different groups. Um,
Mhm.
and then it's just like to realize that like a lot of people tend to watch anime from the black community.
Right.
It's just like you could like literally you could be like a hood dude, you could be like a sporty dude and everything. That's one thing like a lot of black people seem to gravitate to is anime growing up because we grew up during the time where Cartoon Network had the Toonami block, so it's like that's
Mhm.
where we were first exposed to that, and now it's just like now it's sewn into culture now. To the point
Yeah.
where it's like now we got the Boondocks and shows like Afro Samurai, voiced by Samuel Jackson, and everything. And now it's just like, it's just there's gonna be a lot more things in the future, I know for a fact, because a lot of us actually grew up in that time. So it's just like just imagine how things are gonna change like in a decade from now when we're all like
Mhm.
into a position where we can be able to pour into those things.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
possibility of imagining. If you can't see yourself if you can't I was telling this to a friend because as we teach children, about representation and the importance of seeing yourself reflected in all things, if you can't see yourself in the future, you can't create it. So it's always important to be able to imagine like the things that we're having now and the things that we're seeing and how it's very acceptable. And there is a space for people who consider themselves to be black nerds. There is a space like my brother grew up being like I told you, like we're black people growing up in the Bronx. You can only imagine in the 90s what that looks like. Like, you shouldn't be excited about Dragon Ball Z. My brother watched Dragon Ball Z like it was nothing. Like,
Love Dragon
playing
Ball Z.
like, that show is amazing. It is an amazing show, but there were people like us who liked these things, but sometimes the things that we liked had to be kinda almost for protection of your life, keep your hood, your street cred. You can't be talking about I like Dragon Ball Z and I'm watching Sonic or I'm playing Sonic or I'm thinking about all these anime movies and I'm doing punk rock or skateboarding. Like those things are not quite acceptable. Like for me, very much being an artist, not even knowing that I was an artist, but being a creative and an artist at that time of life was very interesting because you had to really like, yes, I had to be rough and tumble because I grew up in the Bronx and I couldn't let anybody play me. You gotta speak up for yourself. You gotta defend yourself. But then it's also those moments of like, well, I like this. I don't want to do that stuff. I like this. This is what I like. So in order for us to have what we have now, all of these people then were imagining it so that this space could be created and it could just be like so free to be yourself.
Yeah, and that's an amazing thing. Even with the Dragon Ball Z thing, like there's so many allegorical elements that actually like speak out to like the black culture. Like without even
Mhm.
knowing, I didn't even realize until I got older and everything. Like, okay, you got this guy who was pretty much ripped from his culture and everything, a culture, a power that he didn't even realize until he was much older, and
Mhm.
so on. Yet again, it was his people was discriminated because of fear that there would be too power and might overthrow this alien, that comes to Snow White and everything, yeah, weird, and everything, and literally exterminated most of his race just out of fear and everything. That would discriminate him as people calling him monkeys and everything. How it's weird how that how does that speak to us on a spiritual level without even realizing? Because even as a kid, like it's just I was so like amazed by stuff like that. It's like okay, there's basically like elements of Superman and everything, but it was different for some reason. It was just something that just kind of spoke to you personally and everything. So I feel like it just kind of represents the inner power that a lot of us hold, no matter how far away we are from our culture or how at the bottom,
Mhm.
if you have the diaspora or you're just a African kid born in America, is that we
Mhm.
really come from greatness and everything. But it's just like, in order to realize that greatness, you got to tap into that internally. So that's
Right.
just what I get from Dragon Ball Z. That's why it's like shows like that are so important and everything. Guys like Naruto and stuff like that for
Mhm.
black kids because it shows us different narratives and everything. Things about discrimination, things about just overcoming obstacles, things in regards to just adversity as a whole, which is like what a lot of us have to face like in this country as a whole. So it's
Mhm.
just like it just kind of gives you a knowing to how to see things or what mindsets to adopt, and how to like, pretty much breeze through it, and it's just like in regards like you even mentioned about seeing ourselves like in media and everything. So just imagine how excited when I saw like Black Panther for the first time and everything. Know that they're actually going
Right.
to really make a movie out of it, and then it actually became like a very high, well selling movie and in the blockbuster and everything. And it's like I feel like I was one of the few people that actually knew about Black Panther way young. I feel like I was first introduced to him when I was in elementary school, although I didn't follow the comics like that. I knew about the character, so it's just like just know, oh yeah, there's an African king out there, and he's a superhero and a scientist and like a symbol to his people. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's just like
Mhm. So
it,
much.
it was just crazy. And then now you're seeing in the big screen, God bless the heart of Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace to him. But it's like, that's very, very important. And it's so sad he passed away because I feel like he would have been one of the main pillars of the MCU moving forward for like the next couple of decades for sure. I know that for a fact.
Oh yeah. I feel like that was the representation we needed
Mm.
coming right before we even got to like this point in COVID and stuff. Like even looking at Black Panther now, the second one, and looking at the impact that Chadwick had, that I've sat in the movies and I watched people cry before we even got to the action. People had to mourn, they had to grieve, they had to process the loss of Chadwick. Even in the fact that they so greatly, I don't know if you saw the movie. You saw the movie,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I saw it. I know exactly
Okay.
what you're talking
I've
about.
been like every if you ain't seen it by now, I'm like, golly, what you waiting on? But it's just the moment of like um in this very beginning of the movie, having the opportunity to allow not just the characters to grieve, but the people who saw him as a reflection of themselves to grieve. That is a big impact to have people across the world, internationally, grieving this one person because of what that person has done and meant to them. Not even like meeting them, but just what they have done, what he represented. So that just shows you what the impact of that of his presence in the Black Panther was. So it just, yeah. I was mourning it too. Like I really was like, how can we even move forward? But watching the movie and letting them having their time to grieve, but also giving us this space to have almost like a funeral in a way. So we all can collectively grieve. We all can collectively process and try to move forward. Yeah, I just thought that was great. But that just speaks to the testament of what you were saying. Like that representation was necessary. It was important.
Yes, very, very necessary and stuff. You know, just black representation as a whole and stuff of that nature. I feel like Chadwick really personified that character. He became that character. So now it's like hard to see other people play the Black Panther too. And it was only like one
Mhm.
movie, like only a handful of appearances he made from like Endgame, Civil War. And so
Yeah.
yeah, now it's like it's his character now. Like saying well, like a Hugh Jackman with Wolverine, they got several Spider-Man now. Like, it's just
Yeah, it's that is like you can't even get attached to one character. It literally is just like multiple characters. Like my son, your cousin, he loves Miles Morales. That's his favorite Spider-Man, regardless of anything. He doesn't care who comes and goes. His favorite Spider-Man is Miles Morales.
and that's from watching Into the Spider-Verse for sure, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which
But
is
then
really
you have this version, but then you have the current version that's out right now. I think the one that they have, the person who plays Spider-Man, I can't remember his name, but
Tom Holland.
yeah, he is like I think maybe the longest running because he's done a couple of more movies than the other Spider-Man
He's done the most
before.
appearances, basically.
He's done it, yeah, because he's been in all the crossovers at this point.
Yeah, man, that's the beauty about Disney, man. Like, really, like they've been putting out like this whole. We literally live in like the best time when it comes to superhero movies.
Oh
Like
yeah.
now it's time to put like much more to the market. Where I feel like certain people are just starting to get a little see it as kind of stale. Is to be honest. I mean, I'm gonna still go to one regardless, but it's like I feel like now it's like where do we go from here? Like after Endgame, and it's just like they're trying to
Right.
make something happen with the whole multiverse thing with King the Conqueror and stuff of that nature. And it's just like it's hard to catch on now because I feel a lot of us like especially we're just kind of like I feel like Chadwick Boseman was going to be like one of that center, like okay they had Doctor Strange and they had the other people and like Spider Man, but I feel like he was going to be like the main one because I feel like now it's like Tony Stark was like okay like he's like he has a whole lot to do with like the world problems and everything and government, and so now it's like Chadwick could have been like that fixture for that. So it's just like that's just kind of how I see it in a sense. Um, but uh,
Mhm.
but it seems like we only got about like about
Oh no, we got time.
yeah
We
shit.
got
No, we got time, but I feel like we gotta like kind of hop back on because like the remaining time is gonna like cut off, and I don't want to like cut off like in the middle like when you're talking. You know what I mean?
got you.
Yeah.
Understood.
So we can probably just hop off and then hop back on a little bit. Is that all right?
Oh, that's fine.
All right, cool. All right, I'll just see you in a little bit. All right, and for part two.
Okay.
All right, let's one. All right. Back again for part two. In the last half, we were pretty much speaking about like representation and like comic book characters and stuff of that nature. But let's start thinking about representation in like real time. I know it's just like a reason why I bring this up is like because when I think about like representation, I look to like sitcoms and everything like Martin and Fresh Prince of Bel Air. But it's like I feel like in regards to culture, I feel like on the educational side we had a different world. And the cool thing about bringing that up for this was like both of us are HBCU grads, me and my auntie here, and everything.
Mhm.
So pretty much describing like your own words. It's like what influenced you to like go to an HBCU, and why did you wanted to pick Winston Salem as a whole?
Well, I am a child of an HBCU graduate. My father went to Winston-Salem State. He was the first in his family to graduate from college.
Mm-hmm.
Then he put my mother's cousin on, who became a graduate of Winston-Salem State. And then I went there. So I went to Winston-Salem State, one because my dad went there, Two, because I was trying to figure out life like many people at 18 years old. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to dance. I knew I wanted to be somewhere in the arts, but I wasn't really sure exactly where I wanted to go. My dad suggested applying to Winston-Salem State and then looking into the programs that they had. Like Winston-Salem State has a great education program, nursing as well. I'm not interested in being a nurse. I wasn't interested at the time, but education was something that I was very interested in doing. It's something I do now. I teach dance for a living. So it was something that I just thought would be a natural fit. And my dad is a proud HBCU grad. So like when I think about it, it was almost like watching the Cosby shows and how much they would talk about Hillman. That's how
Mm.
much my dad would talk about WSSU. Like Winston was it. So I just knew Winston would be it for me. It just felt that it would be the natural progression.
Yeah, no, I can feel that heavily and everything, and I feel like I might end up being that parent also. Like, let me tell you about the times at NCCU. Like, I can definitely see that for sure because it's just
Yeah.
like HBCU has always been like it's been like such a positive reflection in my life and everything. You know, after high school and everything, I was with a crowd of people that just weren't right for me, and for I pretty much staggered education wise, and I didn't know where to go either. And then it's like, I started separating myself from them, trying to find myself as an individual and everything. And my friend said that he was going to North Carolina Central University, and he went there for a year. I mean, for a year, but then didn't follow through with it. But actually, it was really when my brother was hopping around looking for colleges after high school, and I was just like, for some reason when we settled in North Carolina Central, I just something about it just made me want to stay there. Like it's just something was calling out to me to say, this is where you need to be, and so on. So it's like I say, okay, I'm gonna just go to North Carolina Central. Like it's just like one, it's just something tells me I need to be there too. My friends there, so it's like I guess I can just be able to hang out with people, and it wouldn't be hard to get through socially. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's just like but sadly he got kicked out. Gladly my other friend went there, and everything. So from time to time we see each other, but it's just like, we're in different programs. Um, and it's just amazing, like just the culture that you really get from like an HBCU as a whole. I know, like if you've seen kept up with like viral HBCU homecomings, like my HBCU homecoming has gone viral, I think twice in the couple years since I've been there and everything. And it's just like I can't wait. I can't believe I missed the last homecoming. I'm definitely gonna pull out the next one. um but it's like yeah, it's such a revitalizing experience. I had mentors that look like me, educated black men that stand beside me, that was able to, like, not in a sense influence, but like kind of push me,
Right.
like really
Right.
set the foundation for where to head to next and everything. So it's just I chose the business route. I've even interviewed the dean of the business school, Dr. Anthony Nelson. I was even on his advisory board for a little bit and everything. So it's just like, since I went to an HBCU, I was always uplifted. I was always like, invested in,
Important.
poured
Yeah.
into. Where compared to
Mhm.
like, places in CMS system and like, charter schools, I was always like, lagging, and I just didn't feel like I get it as much as attention or priority as compared to my more Caucasian counterparts. Not trying to throw shade. I'm just saying that was
No,
my
it's the reality. You're not throwing any shade. It's the reality. I always say this. I know people be like, your HBCU experience is one of a kind. It
experience.
is an experience that sometimes I try to put into words, but it's so much to even, wrap my mind around what I experienced. I know that my HBCU saved my life. I know that it healed me in ways that I didn't even know I needed to be healed.
Hmm.
And it opened my mind up to the possibilities of being more than I had wanted to settle on being. I came to Winston quitting dance. I
Hmm.
tell this story to my students as a way to motivate, but I had auditioned for all of these top name dance schools. Winston was on my list, but it didn't have dance. So I was interested in going to Winston, but I wanted to go to a school that had dance as well. And there aren't that many HBCUs that have dance. There are some, but not a lot. And I didn't get into my choices. That's my truth. I didn't get in. And my dad said, it's not over. My dad was like, you can be a dance educator. You can just go to Winston and learn how to be an educator. You know how to dance, just learn how to be an educator now. And when I got to Winston, I had already like decided I'm not going to dance ever again.
Mm.
Um, and you know how we have auxiliary groups, we have our campus groups and things like that.
Yeah, little
We
clubs
had
and
a
everything.
yeah, we had our organizations, our clubs. We had a dance organization on campus called Art, and it was around for many years. And prior to me getting there, they had already had this showcase in one of the modeling shows. So they had presented a piece during the modeling show, and I was watching it and I was amazed, and I was like, I can do that. I just said it in passing to one of my friends. I actually know how to do all that stuff they did on stage. And she was like, "What? I'm freshman year. I don't really know too many people." They're like, "Oh, you can do that? Are you sure?" "Yeah, right. If you can do it, audition and let's see if you make it." And I auditioned for the group and I made it and actually wound up being the president of the organization for many years. And it actually really restarted my love for dance, and dance specifically, like I told you earlier, rooted in African diasporic dance forms that are rooted in African dance movements, dance phrasing, dance traditions and cultures that are centered around African diaspora, the diaspora. So that really like pushed me to open my eyes into, maybe I was doing dance, but I wasn't doing it in the way that really honored my spirit. And I learned that a lot from being at my HBCU, being surrounded by people who looked like me, so that I wasn't really in a space where I was alone. A lot of these schools I had auditioned for were predominantly PWI schools, and
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to be supported the way I needed to be supported. So being at Winston-Salem State, yes, the same way you said, like I had people, and when I was in college, I know I'm making myself sound old, but 9/11 happened in
Mm.
my sophomore year.
Mm.
I tell you, I say this with the most, when I say that my HBCU saved my life, it literally did. When 9/11 happened, I was in my dorm freaking out, trying to figure out who I can contact. My dad used to work at the Twin Towers.
Oh wow! Oh crazy, man! I know that.
Yeah, right,
So I'd be
right.
thinking like, how does everybody have a connection with the World Trade Center? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
you think about the
No,
debris
I
and everything. Are they
literally,
gonna drive like airplanes all over the city?
no,
You know what I'm saying? But then
you
it's just like,
know,
you literally you knew someone who actually worked in the towers. So I was like, oh wow.
my dad worked in the towers, and when I was younger, we used to have bring your daughter to work day. And I went with my dad many different times to the Twin Towers, to his office. So like for me, watching something from my childhood really like just burn down to the ground, be crashed into, knowing people who I knew worked in the restaurant
Mm.
at the top of the towers, that did me in. The phone lines were busy. I couldn't call my parents. At the time, a lot of my friends were walking over the Brooklyn Bridge. They were just trying to get home because train lines were suspended. It was chaos, and I'm in North Carolina trying to figure out who I can contact to find out if everybody is okay. It was the worst day ever. But fast forward, I like literally failed that semester, that fall semester,
Yeah.
because of the stress and all of the you know, I didn't know it was trauma. I didn't know it was depression. I didn't know what it was. I just knew I wanted to be home and I was in school. And that was the most scariest feeling, because no one knows they're going to go away to college and then a plane would fall out of the sky into a building.
Yeah.
In your home, your homeland, where you are from. It was really surreal to be distanced in that way. So, I failed that semester. I failed horribly. And I had some classes that I could, scrape together, but if it wasn't for the people at Winston-Salem State, the guidance count, the school counselors, my campus pal, mentors, many different mentors. The dance group, uh, they supported me in a way that I didn't know was imaginable. I had support from the university. They just told me, "Hey, you need this time. We don't want to kick you out." Ordinarily, if you were at a PWI, you know what's going to happen. There's
Yeah,
no like, "Oh, I'm so
totally.
sorry that a plane hit the twin towers." That didn't really affect you. You'll be fine. You would have
Yeah,
been kicked out.
very
But
cold with it. Very cold.
immediately, but at my HBCU at Winston-Salem State, I was rallied behind. I told them exactly what happened and what exactly I was going through. They gave me the support I needed. They got me back on track. They walked me through that process, which eventually helped me get back on track and be able to graduate. Like I was a sophomore, but that could have been the determining factor of my future. If I would have flunked out, who knows if I would have gone back, you know? So like being able to be supported in that way, like, okay, we see what the world has gone through. We see what you have experienced. How can we support you so we cannot have you feel like you need to drop out of school? What can we do so that you don't have to drop out of school? And it was the services, it was the, extra support from certain teachers. I still got to make up classes, during summer school, but it was just the way that I was supported that I don't think I would have been supported at any other like PWI institution. They would have just saw me as a face in the crowd.
Yeah, or just
And
another
then
number or just
you
whatever.
just another number at many of these big institutions like that. But then on top of that, they wouldn't have really taken the time out to get to know who I am and why I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing. And that's the difference between going to a PWI and really going to an HBCU. The love, the support, um, and the care. It's like people were invested in my growth. And that
Mhm.
I never, outside of my parents, I've never actually felt that way about people who really didn't know me. Like, you don't know me well enough. I've only been here for 2 years, but people were invested in my growth. So that really warms my heart. And that's why I love HBCUs more than anything. I had an opportunity to go to PWI for grad school, but it still doesn't compare. Still doesn't compare.
Yeah, no, seriously, man. Like, my mom wanted me to go to UNC Chapel Hill so bad because like I was doing so good at the community college I transferred to. Because the first community college I was just doing horrible at. I did pretty well, but then it got worse over time. But then it's just like so it's like I showed it chops. Like, okay, like I could actually do a lot better. I just thought university was gonna be hard because school was just such a tough thing for me. I don't know. I just couldn't keep up my assignments. So it's just I just didn't know. I just didn't do well. But then, like, it's just I came to this HBCU. I was on top of my work. I would usually send out I would send out like a piece of paper for everybody to write their name and number down so I could set up the group chat so we could always stay connected, which really helped us really, really throughout the
Mhm.
semester and everything. So it's just like, you realize things about yourself when I went to HBCU. Like, I was brought up through these systems thinking that maybe I was the problem, that, maybe I was the one who
Mm,
wasn't capable, me
right.
as eloquently as I speak, as much as like I do and everything. It always made it seem like I was just incapable and everything, and incapable of learning, so on and so forth. It's just like they make you seem like you're like an imbecile or something like that. Whereas like here, it's like people would usually refer to me like a genius or something and call me things like that. And I'll be so. It's just crazy how when people even try to compliment you and everything, you don't even take it because you're so stuck with just being in like there's one like you say, oh, you're just like you're less than or you're an imbecile. But then here, like, it's like they see you as like a bright light. They see you like it's just top of the line. Like even like like one of your colleagues, like I don't know if you know in person, but like Sean Andrews was in the Men's Achievement Center. So it's just like like he would even we would get into talks all the time. And he would also he was like one of the first people that actually considered like maybe I should go to grad school, which is like really on my bucket list now. Not
Mm,
maybe because of him, but because like you only got one life. Why can't I go to grad school? Why can't I get my master's and maybe somewhere down the line my doctorate? One of my other mentors in the Men's Achievement Center, the one that actually actually started the thing, Dr. Roderick Heath. he got his doctorates like just recently, like a couple, like I think like my last year I went there, I was actually sitting in attendance on Zoom while he was actually getting his doctorates, giving up his dissertation. And I'm like, wow,
Mm,
like he came from like a real rough upbringing and everything, came to college at 23, freshman year, flunked out, came back, got his degree in education, and then now he's really getting his doctorates. And it really just shows that we really go our own path and everything. We also go through also jumps and hurdles, but it's like that's the part of HBCU and everything. Like they'll help you along your way to get where you need to get. And I feel like, I needed to be at the Men's Achievement Center. I needed to be like, go to the business school and everything, like God wanted me to be there, and I just feel like, that place is just like, if heaven, it's like, not saying if, because like it's just like my personal heaven would be at like an HBCU. Like that's how positive my experience is at an HBCU. It's just everybody just focus on something, everyone just having fun when it's time to have fun. I wasn't used to that growing up, so it's just like predominantly black institution. I was always brought up as like, oh no, like these predominantly black schools and everything, they don't got a whole lot of funding. So it's like all people do is just do a bunch of messed up stuff. Whereas like here, it's like everybody's just so stuck on trying to get where they need to get. So it's just like, when you tell your story about like, the people like with 9/11, how that affected you, made you depressed, made you not focused, you flunked that semester, I was having issues in school too, even though like I never flunked a semester and I never failed a class gladly.
yeah,
I
good
usually
job.
dropped out at the last minute before, like if I knew I was gonna have a hard time. Gladly I have that sense of self awareness when it came to that. Like, but it's just it's just I have this personal condition I don't really tell a whole lot of people about and everything that it's pretty much survived when I was 18 years old, and I've had to deal with it like for years, and like I still have to find a cure for it. I'm 24 now, and
Mhm,
doing all sorts of things and everything. I can't really go into detail about it, but I would be so depressed because it's because of this. Like even though I was at the campus and I did go to class, and I did do my work, and I did socialize here and there, I was mostly a recluse on campus. And I speak
mm,
about it issue because like it's just I didn't go to a party so much as I wanted to, or do go to the events as much as I wanted to, but I did go to the Men's Achievement Center from time to time, and
mhm,
it came to such a point where like my senior year and everything, I was just thinking about all the things I missed out on and everything of that nature for the past couple of years, and I just became so depressed and everything. And I just couldn't even get out of bed sometimes. Like it's like, why am I still dealing with this like right now? Like I should have been find like an answer for this, forever ago. Why can't I find an answer and everything? And it's just like I would call my mentors, the people in the Men's Achievement Center, they came to my dorm room just to check on me. Like, if I wouldn't even go to show for a couple days or whatever, because I had like assignments to do or something, they would actually usually check in on me, stuff of that nature. And it's just crazy.
mhm.
It's like just the kind of support like, I never got in my life. I got it all at an HBCU. And it's like, how hard would it take to just look out for somebody? How much of your time would it take for it just to like really check in on somebody, really uplift somebody, and stuff of that nature? And it's like I told my mentors, Dr. Roderick Heathen, it's the Sean Andrews what I was dealing with and everything. And it's just like they make it seem like, I'm more than that. I'm more than like, anything I've been through my past or like what condition I have and everything. I'm a black man, I am more than that. And that is the importance of an HBCU because like I feel like as black men in this country, we're emasculated all the time. We're brought down all the time, broken into all the time. And it's just like to know like you have a place where really not only will they uplift you, but they will invigorate you. Like they'll push you to
Mhm.
become something greater than yourself than you ever thought it was. Like, I never thought I was ever going to graduate and like, walk like cum laude, like and everything. I would never even like dream of things like that. But it's like I needed to actually like, to know that it actually came into fruition really changed my mindset on a whole lot of things that anything I'm going through I can really like overcome it. Anything I want, I can achieve it. Anything that I visualize can be realized, and that's all through determination and the discipline to make these things happen. And that's what HBCU has taught to me.
Yes, you are preaching, sir. Yes.
I know you're probably smiling ear to ear, like yes, yes, I feel that.
Yeah, I know. I'm over here like, yes. And that is why you should go to HBCU. I like literally teach so many young girls and boys. And some of them don't want to be dancers, and that's fine too. I don't expect them all to be, but I expect them to try to be good humans and
Mhm.
be in spaces that will continue to cultivate them from mind, body, and spirit, for their growth. And I'm always preaching HBCUs. It don't even gotta be my HBCU, but it should be an HBCU. I am always aware that we have an experience that is like none other. It doesn't matter if you went to Howard or Clark Atlanta,
FAMU.
Morehouse, FAMU, the big ones, Hampton, the real HU, or lies. I'm joking on them because they always want to joke with Howard. But
Mhm.
I say all that to say, like, we have an experience that is one of a kind. You going to Central, we going, the both of us, your uncle and I, going to Winston-Salem State. We have it's an experience that only we can understand, but still, it's still individual. It is still very individual based off of the school, but it is very collective based off of the fact that we have a shared understanding and value and love for HBCUs. So yeah.
Yeah, no, seriously. I feel sorry for anybody who doesn't go to HBCU for sure, because like really, like that's kind of shooting yourself in the foot. Like that's 4 good years, positive years, 4 years of healing, 4 years of experiences that you would not experience nowhere else. It's like you're living in a mini town. Like there's 8,000 students that go to North Carolina Central University, which is like what they claim is not as big because there's other university that have a lot larger group, but at the same time it's like it's just everybody, there's always somebody new to meet, there's always something that you can do. It's just a big wide margin, and it's just like it's just always something to get into, whether you want to get into dancing. I met so many people that I've interviewed at NCCU who were rappers also, in that area, which I really can't wait to touch down with them once I get back to Durham again. And it's just like it's just stuff of that nature, and you realize how big the world is. Like like all the all the issues I had to go through in high school and middle school. It's like no one even like acts like that. It's just everybody be chilling. Everybody wants to root for you. Everybody wants you to win. Everyone wants you to get into the mix. No one like sits down and hates on nobody at a HBCU. Like no one has
Mhm.
HBCU beefs. Like maybe you might have a disagreement, but it's never a beef. But that's just about it. It's just like but where I kind of see us all as just kind of brothers and sisters. Just kind of sewn into this quote of it, like an experience that I feel like no other could ever like really experience unless they actually went there. It's just there's just so much to it. That's why I can't wait to go to Howard for grad school, and I can't wait to get my doctorates. I don't know if I want to go to Howard for my doctorates or I go back to NCCU for my doctorates, but I know it will be because of an HBCU. I love being the product of an HBCU. You know.
I wouldn't. I concur. I concur. I totally agree. I feel the same way. If my son wants to go to an HBCU, I encourage it. I encourage it. Yeah, yeah, most certainly.
Yeah, I feel like he would get a lot of support out there for sure. Like wherever HBCU he wants to choose to go to and everything, I feel like they would have a lot of support for him and everything. And he's the only child and everything, so it's just like it's just for me. I had my brother, so it's just like and my cousins growing up, so it's just like I always had to look out for somebody and so on. So it's like I didn't realize how much support I needed until like I needed it. I just kind of prioritize the needs of others. So it's just like that's just kind of how me. But I feel like you need to kind of go through that phase in order to become like a much better leader. Like, you got to know how to like be supported and support others. So it's just like, I guess it's just two dimension on that end. But anyway,
Yeah.
in regards to your experience at Winston Salem and everything, could you describe like meeting DeMaurio Weanquoi, my uncle DeMaurio, and it's go let the audience know. My uncle DeMaurio, and just basically just that experience from there. Like how did that relationship evolve over time, and like how do you know it's like okay, this is gonna be my husband? Moving on, yeah. Keep on. This is an HBCU love story, so like everybody listen up.
You're so funny. I met your uncle uh spring semester of 2004. Yes. Spring semester of 2004. I was again doing my dance stuff in the show. I was the president of the organization, running around getting signatures so we could have a show from all the higher ups in the school. And I kept running into your uncle. kept
Mm.
running into him because he was the president of his organization. So we always had to go and get signatures from the same places in order to have meetings for our groups. And it just so happens we would always like bump into each other, not intentionally. It would just be like, I'm going to go get this contract signed. And then all of a sudden, it's him again. So we exchanged numbers. I had a boyfriend, so I was not interested. Let me
Mm.
be clear. I wasn't interested. However, we were friends. And then we lost touch for a while because we went and did our own endeavors. And then we reconnected after we graduated in '06.
Mm.
So it wasn't too far after it actually. And we just reconnected back in the day. That was MySpace. We reconnected through MySpace. He was like, "Hey, you remember me?" And I was like, "Hey, yes, I do." And we've been on and popping ever since. I'm very clear that we met then so we could meet at later points in time and be prepared to be in a space of knowing each other and truly taking things to where we are today.
Okay, no, see, that's wonderful and everything. Because some people, like, especially this generation, I don't know. It's like we didn't have as much R&B and like stuff as like y'all grew up, and our R&B is kind of different from like y'all R&B, and then in the '90s and early 2000s. So like things about aspects of love, black love and things of that nature. It seems to be something that I feel like a lot of us in this generation seem to like kind of struggle with. To just know that it's just like that you met your like husband in an HBCU and then reconnected later in life, and then it's just like just kind of went on from there and everything. It's just so few people could actually say that they actually well, I'm not trying to say so few people, but it's becoming a margin that's becoming to become more and more shallow of people pretty much not even just marrying like to people that look like them, but also marrying connecting with people that they've met in college and stuff of that nature. What about Uncle DeMaurio had you like just kind of linked in? Like, oh, what about him that just like says, okay, yeah, I need to stick with this person for like a while.
Um, hmm. Well, he was hella like real. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. You know how your uncle is.
yeah.
He doesn't sugarcoat the things. He tells it like he sees it. Um, and you don't have to question what it is. It is what it is. But he's hella funny. He's got jokes for days, and
Yep, that's
he's
our
goofy.
family. We're just joker
He's
people. I don't know what it is.
silly, he's goofy, and I love that about him. He's very goofy, but the greatest thing about your uncle that really is the reason why I'm with him today is the way that he loved y'all, all of his nieces and nephews. I he when we were dating, he would go back and forth to go see some of you guys
Mhm.
along the way, and I was just like, "You drive to go well, in my mind, I'm from New York, so driving back and forth all over the place was not a concept that I was familiar with, but being someone who lived in Winston, who would drive down to Lexington or Salisbury or even Charlotte to see family members, the way that, like, your Uncle Bo, um he would go to his games when he was in college and when he was in high school. He would drive down to Charlotte to the games. He was always present as much as possible for you guys. And that really was something that stuck with me because when people say they're family oriented, it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to be in action with it. And the way that your uncle is, he's very much in action with that. So
Yeah, man. I heard stories about how like, Uncle Amari used to literally buy Charles and like Juan's like shoes and everything to get like certain articles of clothes with a lot of his like financial aid money and stuff. And it's just like it just kind of like I feel like that kind of sets the standard for me, the kind of provider I want to be for like for my family, like moving on. But just like with my cousins and everything, because like now it's like about 13, 14 of us now. I don't. It's a lot. It's hard to keep up with the number. What number we on Camille? It's like
I don't know. There's a lot of y'all. I mean, your Uncle Vaughn has
five.
five in his own set by
Okay, and then
himself.
Aunt Love that's
So
6. I don't know. Aunt Love that's 7, and then Charles
seven
that's 9.
plus
Okay,
you
and then
two.
it's you. It's like that's 10. Okay, and then
Mm-hmm.
me and Taurus that's 12.
12.
Okay, and then I know there's some more. I don't want to leave people out. It's so hard.
But yes, there's a lot of you guys. The grandchildren is very deep. There's a lot of you guys. But I say all that to say, like, at the end of the day, like the way he would try to be present. I know sometimes you can't be present for everyone. And us being the way where we live now, we can't be as present as we used to be. But it's the try. It's the I'm gonna try to do it. That really was something that resonated with me. So I was like, oh, he really is a good dude. Like, yeah, he really does do this. It's not like I have family. Like I am really connected to my family.
Yeah, man, no, seriously, being family orientated as a black man is like, I feel like that's like one of the big, like, I feel that's a pillar of masculinity that a lot of people don't really seem to like, really like value as much as they used to. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like, oh yeah, I got the X amount of baby mamas, or like I got this amount of kids and everything. But really, how much do you prioritize them? Like ensure like, everybody's needs is met. Like everyone's making sure that you're present for everybody and that stuff of that nature. All that is very, very much vital as a man, to really prioritize and so on and so forth. So just to know that, yeah, I definitely get you on that one. Uncle DeMaurio is very, very like family orientated, like crazy family orientated and stuff. It's just like it's just one of those things. It's like, I feel like that just kind of like influences on me also, just how to just react to my family growing up. Like I aspire to be that present for like all my cousins and everything when I reach that position where I'm able to do so and stuff. And it's just like that's just how I see him. I just think he's just like he's a very, very very well kept type of a black man. And I've just said very wise, very astute, and just he just carries himself in such an honorable way that I feel like a lot of people in our family just don't seem to. I don't say I'm not trying to diss. Oh, the y'all ain't honorable. So yeah, I just feel like just the way he carries himself. It's just a cool guy and everything. But anyway, like to take it to the next point
I
of the
know.
whole we got like a couple minutes left, so it's just like
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh,
we talk
well, I
about
can talk about
veganism.
the next thing. I can most certainly talk about the next thing.
I mean, would you want to hop on again so we can be able to talk about veganism and whatnot? Because do you have enough
Yeah,
time? All right,
I could talk about the veganism.
all
I
right,
could
cool.
definitely talk about that.
All right, now we got part three. I didn't think I was going to go to a part three, just for a little
Unless you
bit,
want
maybe
me to
like a
come back
good.
and do it another time, what would you like me to do?
I mean, it's just like no, just 5 or 10 minutes, and I just don't want to cut you off early. Is what I'm saying. So just pretty much, we're just gonna take it out, and to transition to like just veganism and just that lifestyle and everything. And talk about you pretty much still do the whole Cameron's treat thing, right?
Nope, I sure don't.
Okay, that's fine. We don't have to speak too much about that, but just recipes with that and stuff of that nature. So it's just like just not too long, just a good 10 minutes, not much.
Okay. Let's
All right.
I'll hop off and hop back on.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, thank you, Aunt Camille.
No problem. All right.
All right, part three. Now, I would like to focus more on veganism. As you know, my aunt Camille is a very, very. Do you say the term heavy veganist, or just like you're just vegan centric?
Um, vegan conscious. I'm not a heavy I mean, I wear my purses. I still wear my purses. I'm conscious about the things that I put into my body more so than anything and how that affects the world. Yeah.
Oh yeah, surely, man. Because I was like, I know, like when I first fell in love with like one of the things like vegan when you made the vegan cookies and everything, I'd be like, oh,
Oh,
how come your Uncle Mario coming over? I hope she brings the cookie dough, like, so we can make our own. Cause those vegan cookies used to smack. What do you used to make those vegan cookies out of again?
it was straight up and down plants. Like the flour was a more of a whole wheat, unbleached flour,
Mm-hmm.
and the cookies were vegan cookies. So they vegan chocolate chips were made out of no milk. It's pure cacao, and the sweetest of the sweets, using cane sugar, healthier alternative to the regular bleached sugar that is on in the stores. So it's a lot of different products that are more so healthy, healthier options and alternatives that were added into, like vegan butter that is more so made out of coconut oil.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm trying to think what else was in there. Oh, just baking soda, baking powder. Really not too much.
Yeah.
Flax seeds was my big thing. I snuck
Oh.
in flax seeds as a binder, but also flax seeds have those omega 3s, which is very
Mm.
good for you. So snuck those into the cookies. You would never know.
No, seriously, I had no clue. That yeah, there were our poppy seeds basically vegan? They're vegan, right?
Yeah, poppy seeds. Yes.
Oh, okay, so like you can make like poppy seed vegan muffins. That could be possible.
Absolutely. You can take
Nice.
everything, almost everything that is done traditionally plant as a meat-based item and make it into a plant-based item. You can do that.
Yeah, yeah, I noticed that, and it's just like like I know there's certain minor differences and consistencies that you notice, but it's like not even like a problem. Like I know, like I told you, like I had like a vegan macaroni and cheese and a vegan burger at this restaurant and everything
Mhm.
on my break because I was on a fast, and it's just like I didn't know if it was processed or not, so I don't know if I was 100% through that fast or whatever. Whatever, it was still pretty good. Anyway,
Right.
and it's just like, I know it's like, wow, so this is made out of cashews and stuff like that. So I'm eating it
Mhm.
and I'm like, wow. And it's like, man, if we really just kind of cut down and went like, maybe like at least 50% vegan, just make it more of an option. You know what I'm saying? Make it a little bit cheaper. I don't know how we can make it cheaper. But it's like, then we wouldn't have to worry about like all the consumerism that comes with fast food joints like
Mhm.
Tyson and McDonald's and everything, fields and fields and fields of cows and stuff. Don't see sunlight. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just
Yeah.
like I just feel like it's good when there's an option. That's what I mean. And it's just like it's good that now like I'm at the age now where I'm more conscious. To really in
Mhm.
regards to like what I put in my body. Also, like I can go out for like maybe a burger every once in a while, but I'm not so like obsessed
Like
over it. You know what I'm
heavy
saying?
vegan. Yeah. I think for me, around your age or close to your age is when we became vegan. Like we did that almost nearly now coming up on the 14th year. Come next year will be 14 years of being vegans. And we only did it because of our your cousin, our son. We were thinking about like what were we going to feed him in terms of when it was time for him to start to eat like solid food.
Mm,
And they usually every baby starts technically as a vegetarian.
mm,
Most babies, the first meal they're eating is usually fruits and vegetables. If you look at the first thing that is introduced to any baby's diet, when a doctor says, yes, your child is ready to eat solids, the first thing they tell you to introduce is a fruit or a vegetable.
yeah, some
So
kind of applesauce or
or
something like that. Yeah.
some type of plant, and it's usually a plant-based item. It's never like you then eventually get introduced to meat, but babies are solely introduced to that first and foremost when they start eating solid food. So we essentially are just doing things we've already been doing. It's just we kind of look at it in a different context. Like people really go, "Oh my gosh, I can't go vegan." And I'm like, but it's not really too far off from what you're doing currently. If you're eating and you don't have to go 100% vegan, you can go a plant, do a 50-50, like a plant-based diet and meat or pescatarian, whatever you choose.
Or just take
But
baby
what,
steps, like just try it
yeah.
out, see what you like and everything. Like I know, like when
Right.
it comes to like trying to take different milk, I know my thing is like almond milk is like what I like to go with. Coconut milk used to be where it's good, but it just depends on the consistency. Like I feel like the less
Hmm.
frothier it is, the more like I like it. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
just like it's just stuff like that. Like there's options out there, and it's just like some people like oat milk and everything. I
Hmm.
don't really like oat milk and everything, but I it's just like, yeah, they got soy milk, they got options, and then it's just like you can live. Like that's what I'm saying. Like it's not like it's impossible.
You can live. It's not impossible. And there are even options to eat as a vegan or just plant-based on a budget. I think sometimes we look at veganism as a luxury. So a lot of people don't feel like they can be vegan because they feel like they can't afford to be vegan. Usually that's because you're thinking about the extra amounts of things like I need to do this vegan cheese here and I need to do this vegan burger here. Like those are where the item costs go up. Like if you have to buy the cheese, the the egg substitute, the meat substitute. If you're buying all these extra substitutes, it does add up. Some of those things could be like $8 for like 8.99 for like 2 to 3 patties. It's not even enough for a week. It's like maybe 2 meals at the most, or a meal for the day. So like I usually try to pay attention to learning how, when we first transitioned, learning how to create meals out of just the plants, the veggies and the beans. Because when we started to become vegan, even though it was way better than like people who were in the 70s trying to struggle to find replacements, now we have options. But it still is a reminder of where we were 14 years ago, where there weren't that many burger substitutes in restaurants. They didn't really have cheese substitutes in restaurants. So we had to like really be inventive when we were going out to eat, or just when we were at home. We had to find recipes that really worked for us. So really looking at like mushrooms as an option, as a meat substitute option, as opposed to trying to buy like beyond meat or impossible burgers or things like that, or even like you said, the cashews as a cheese substitute, like making that into a cheese substitute. There are ways to be able to do it and not have to break your budget or break the bank. Aldi's, Walmart, there are places that you can get your items for an affordable price nowadays. So it's a little bit different unless you live in a specific area that is very much a food desert. There's options. There are still options. Walmart, Aldi's. There's even more stores that you can like really look to get your greens or your kale at an affordable price.
Yeah, no, seriously. And it's just like even finding like the best restaurants and everything to kind of roll with. I know like the main place Uncle DeMaurio used to come to was the Bean that was on Independence.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like yeah, it's kind of I kind of like it. It's all right, but I want to try out Romeo's place. I don't know if it's just if it's the
Oh
actual place or if it's
yeah.
just like a what you call it a food truck. Now I'm not too sure, but it's definitely on the bucket list of things to try. Cause I made a list of things, place I want to eat after I got off my fast. But it's like it's crazy because now I got to go on another fast pretty soon. I'm thinking about maybe fasting maybe once a month actually now. I think
It's
that's
actually a really good thing. I usually do a quarterly fast. More
yeah.
so, I fast into the different seasons. But when it's wintertime, I try not to fast
Yeah.
because of the climate, of course, living in the Northeast. It's more of a colder climate over here. So I try to, when I fast in the wintertime, if I do it, I try not to do a lot of cold beverages. I try to do a lot of soups. So like trying to do butternut squash, doing things that I can like puree and make into soups, as opposed to like eating heavier items. I try to do my fasting in the winter as more of a soupy, liquidy type of fast, but still warm items, but um not as heavy with the food.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And it's just like, I guess just like there's even other things that you could still consider eating. Like, of course, like fruits and vegetables are pretty much aligned with the vegan diet. And it's just
Mhm.
like I like how plantains are still vegan. Frying plantains. That's one of the big things I like eating. Growing up,
Mhm.
I didn't even realize it. And it's just like you go to like yeah, like, out of HB at my college, they actually got a vegan like rack and everything. So it's like you can be able to eat food off
Oh,
that.
wow.
And
That's different.
like they
When
got
I was in undergrad, I was in undergrad, there were no vegan options. We had one girl on campus who came from Canada
mm,
who was vegetarian,
mm,
and they had started to add a veggie burger on the menu,
mm,
but I she was working it out going to school in the South and being a vegetarian. I don't even know how she worked it out, but that's different. Like even the fact that it's so progressive now that veganism is like a thing for more and more people, that people are making accommodations to even think about it being in your on your college campus is really like a testament to how much veganism has grown.
Yeah, man, it's just like, I know if I was either going on a fast or trying to cut down and whatnot, like there was always like options on the side, because one of
Of
the main
course.
things I would go to eat is just like pizza and everything, because that's like, like it's just there. It was
Mhm.
when I first got to college, like the pizza was just amazing, and then over time it just kind of deteriorated. I mean, but it was still like whatever, just get it, and then like I think turkey burgers were my thing for like a year, and then they stopped doing that for some weird reason.
Mhm.
And then it was just like, but it's like, what kept consistent was like there was still a whole lot of vegan options. Like you could have your chickpeas here, your lentils there, and like
Mhm.
just do whatever. I think they had tofu from time to time, so I would try it. I'm
Oh,
like,
cool.
right, like a little fried tofu and everything.
Nice.
And then it's just like I think I just eat it with the chili sauce and everything. So it was manageable. And but most importantly, they had the plantains, and that almost made me cry when I saw that. I was like, oh wow, they got plantains, like food from a delicacy from back home, and everything. So it's just like it was just pretty cool on that end. So it's like I just like how like with veganism it's like that there's always like an option. You can go to Trader Joe's and basically like find whatever you can find at Trader Joe's. And 'cause y'all go to Trader Joe's when you try to go.
Absolutely. I love that store.
Always something there.
I love that store. They have, like, these plantain, croutons that I
Mm.
love to put on my salad. They always have other, like, great options. As a vegan, I really appreciate the options that they have there.
Yeah, I think they got something called cookie butter over there. I heard about it, so I need to try it. So
Oh, yeah, the cookie butter, I've heard about. Everyone loves that. But they have lots of options. They even have, and the thing about this is there's a lot of items that are on the shelves that people don't know are vegan. We
Mhm.
just bypass it because we just assume it's not. Like,
Oreos.
Oreos, yeah, that's a common thing, but there are some crescent rolls that are vegan at Trader Joe's. It's all about knowing the ingredients, knowing what it's composed of, that really will help people on their journey if they wanted to just eat more of a plant-based diet, eat more of items that don't include, you know, specifically meat. There you just gotta look at the labels. Like I remember when we first started doing this, we had to really pay attention to the labels. It wasn't that hard. In the beginning, it was like, okay, that it made us realize how much stuff is in our food that we don't actually know the names of them. So it was very like, oh dang, I don't know what this is. Like, so we had to research it, like, oh, this is why we should not be eating this. But after a while, you can really get an understanding. Okay, this word really means peppermint, or this word means tea tree, or
Mhm.
knowing the other names for certain herbs and spices and essentials that you are using really does help, so that you're clear on, okay, this is a vegan item, I can still eat it, it does not have any additives that are from a meat-based perspective, or meat-based item. So it's just a matter of like really sitting down and looking at the items. A friend of mine does a vegan grocery store tour, where she goes through the aisles and she shows people what products are vegan, and how to look at the label so you're not confused. I think that's a really good opportunity for people to really sit down and be like, okay, I never knew this. I can actually get this. Okay, I don't have to cut everything out, because the first thing people go to is, I'm vegan. I can't have this. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have the things that you were used to. It's probably meaning that you're just going to have to adjust the way that it is prepared or served, and how you prepare it. Are you preparing it in meat grease, or are you preparing it in coconut oil, or
Mhm.
grapeseed oil, or vegetable oil? You have to just know how you're going to adjust and veganize it, so to speak.
Yeah, and it's weird how it's always like looked down upon, like culturally. I know sometimes, not in a sense looked down upon, but just kind of say, "Oh wow, this dork's a vegan," or "Oh, vegan, oh, I hate those guys." Like I like people just want to like just shove their like eating habits on other people. I don't ever really see it like that because I never met like a vegan that was just like in your face about them being vegan. Like it's just like just an aspect of their character or like a diet. Like that's just it. Like they just more conscious about what they put in their diet, and that's nothing bad. Like that's a good thing. Like that kind of just kind of reflects in different aspects of your life, even spiritually and everything. Like once you're more mindful of your diet, like from what you put in your body from food, you'd be more mindful of what your diet you're watching on TV, social
Right.
media, things like that. It's good to be like health conscious for everything,
Mhm.
even like, with relationships. Once you're more like self aware of what's good and what's not good for you personally, you can be able to grow closer to people that you need to be closer to and grow and like just outgrow the people who aren't good for you. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just
Right.
it's just I don't know. I feel like I like how it's just like we just live in a time where it's just like we know more about this. 'Cause as a kid, I didn't know nothing about what vegan was until I got older and older. You started learning little bits and pieces about it. So I feel like for you and Uncle DeMaurio to really go that route, it's like it's like a saving grace because you never know. Like y'all could really be like the ones to really educate our family moving forward in regards to like really how to eat properly. It's like we can have the African food from time to time, but it's good to like just kind of like find a balance and probably stray away from those things a while. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah, and it's definitely something to think about. Like, we live in a society where the food is not like our ancestors' food.
of course.
Like, the the ways that they are processed is not the same. Like, our ancestors were living to hundreds of years old, but their food and their diet was a lot less processed.
Process. Yeah.
There wasn't a middleman between them and their food. They didn't have to go and get their food from a particular person who got their food shipped to them from another person. Like, their food came directly from the source. So, we have to think about, unfortunately, as we evolve in this world, we also have to evolve the way that we eat. So it might not be that we can eat the same amounts of food in the quantity or quality that we used to eat it with our ancestors before. Like, maybe it is, you know, a little different now. Like, there are people who have lots of lactose allergies. They can't do milk or cheese, or there are a lot of people who have allergies to soy and gluten intolerance. They can't eat wheat. So it should really spur a conversation in people's mind of, if you eat this and all of a sudden, like, your belly is feeling like it's being attacked, or if you're eating this and it's making you feel sluggish and it's making you feel foggy in the brain. Like, what is that? Like, trying to find the connections between our food and the
Mhm.
way that we are engaging with the rest of the world really will help where we will be able to go in the future. Like, when more and more people start recognizing, like you said, being more mindful of what they put into their body, it might even change the trajectory of the way that they live their lives. So I'm always like, what did you eat? My students always want to come to me after they've eaten chips, they've eaten cookies and the chocolates, and all types of food, oodles and noodles. Well, I don't yuck the oodles and noodles because that was my college meal,
Yo,
but you know what
seriously,
I'm saying?
college diet. That's
That
right.
was my college diet. But they come to me after they've eaten all of this food, and they're expected to be able to jump, move, turn, and be quick on their feet, but they're not. you know?
Mhm.
After eating all that food, they wanna lay down. They're not at their best and their highest. So I'm always reminding them, your muscles are probably getting tense because you haven't had any potassium. When's the last time you ate a banana? Instead of eating the chips, why don't you eat a banana on your break? Like, those are things that you can trade off to really help the body and even to help the mind. Like, if you're foggy and you can't remember the stuff that you've been studying, what are you eating at the time that you're studying? That determines whether or not your brain is activated and it's really like paying attention to what you needed to pay attention to. Like, eat an apple. Instead, if I'm studying, let me try to eat these cherries or eat these strawberries. Like, it different options. I'm really like, I want people to really think about that. Doesn't mean you have to go solely vegan, but being mindful of what you put in your body will be a big service to your longevity on this earth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely. Have you ever used like sea moss or anything? Or ever ingested a sea moss anytime
Oh
in your life?
yeah. Sea moss is the shit. I love sea moss. I use sea moss in my smoothies. I
Mm,
also use sea moss in my meals. I cook with it. I add it to like some pastas sometimes, some stir fries, even a soup. Sea moss is that it's that mineral producing supporting item that is a benefit. Sea moss, I we had gotten lots of sea moss during COVID. That
mm.
was when people really started to discover the beauty of sea moss. But sea moss has been a thing that we've been using before COVID, and I'm glad that more and more people are up on it.
No, seriously, like it's just I know some people that sell sea moss in the gel, sea moss in pills. I think they
Yeah.
got sea moss like gummy bears or something right now. I don't even
Oh
know.
yeah, they do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. So I definitely want to get that really introduced in my system sometime next year because it's like I really need to write down my New Year's resolution, which is like I'm not a big believer of New Year's resolution, but I am a believer of writing things down and everything
Uh-huh.
because it's just a good way to keep on your head on. Even if you don't hit everything by the time, it's good to at least put it out there that you're focused on it. So you be able to be reminded. I know what you need to do. And it's just like, it's crazy that there's a substance like sea moss that actually benefits all like all your minerals and everything all at once without it being competitive within the system. Because sometimes people take a multivitamins and sometimes some of the vitamins be competitive in the system to like, in terms of like how they're ingested and stuff. So it's like know that it's natural and everything means like it probably like we can be able to take it within our body without having as much issue as like maybe like a multi vitamin gummy or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. That there are lots. I mean, sea moss is the go-to, but there's things like bladderwhack, and there's things like maca. There's so many things out there that a lot of people just don't know. In its simplest form, they come in pills, they come in vitamins, powder substances. You can just add it to your beverage. Like if you wanted to just be able to have it without having to make so much, you can just add it to your beverage.
No, really,
Yeah.
it's just crazy. Like, do you feel like maybe we should could probably like introduce more vegan, like, not vegan mentality, but just the whole vegan diet lifestyle to like maybe like West Africa or whatever. Like maybe, cause I know like all most of the stuff they eat is like entirely natural anyway.
Mhm.
But just it's just like just in general, like it's just like, do you feel like that's another thing that could probably help other communities in Western Africa? Because I know even like I know you heard like our great grandmother is still like alive. Our grandfather, bless his heart,
Yeah.
mother is still alive walking by, and I think a lot of it has to do with the diet that they've had out there in West
Oh,
Africa.
yeah. And it's also the processing. Like I said, the processing of food. I have a friend who lives in I forgot where she lives. Is it Switzerland? I want to say it's Switzerland,
What about the
but
Netherlands? The Netherlands?
it might be. I'm trying to think. I don't remember specifically, but there are certain items that we have here that are very banned there. Like they're because of the ingredients, they are banned in in that country. Like it was a chocolate bar that we have been eating all our life that was banned there because of some of the ingredients being considered unhealthy. And it's almost like, well, being in America, there are so many things that are not banned. We have an FDA, of course, they approve things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that these things are the healthiest. They can get approved, but they also can't, no, don't have to necessarily be healthy. But it just goes to show you that, outside of America, there are places where people are eating healthy and thriving because of the way that their food is created. Like, yes, your great grandmother is literally walking around like nothing is wrong, just chilling, but it's because of the fact that she is able to eat from the source. Like we all know Africa is one of the most nutrient rich places in the world. It has so many resources that many people want to tap into. Um, so it goes without saying, yes, there are things already there that help, cure ailments, that help with longevity of life. There are already things there within the food sources that are being, you know, um, grown there. So I think introducing a plant-based diet probably would be helpful, but I think because it's culturally based in pescatarian or even meat-based diets, it would probably be a little hard for it to be 100% embraced. But I do think in moderation, that is something that can be shared, you know, like maybe eating this in moderation. But yeah, culturally speaking, there are things that are already included that might not want to be taken apart. But like your mother does a great job of still giving us the opportunity to eat the foods that your Uncle DeMario is familiar with in Liberian food, but having the option of it being veganized, vegetarian,
Yeah.
vegan. Your mom does. I love it when she does the spinach. It's amazing. But the
Oh, you
fact that
also
she,
so you love the cabbage she made for sure.
yes, I love that too. That we just had for Thanksgiving. I love that too. Still eating off of the leftovers.
It's
But
good, man.
it's good. But those are the things that we can teach. Those simple things we can say, maybe we can teach those to people in West Africa. Like, maybe instead of doing this today, maybe you can do this. Have a little bit of a balance between the two. So it's possible, but it would definitely be an education. It would definitely be like an education that has to be done in order for that to be something that is widely accepted.
Yeah, no, definitely. I just feel like, it's just being health conscious is just on all the board. It's just something I feel like the black community needs, especially rolling in the 2020s now. And definitely want to move into the next decade, 2030s, 2040s, 2050s. Like things like for instance, like arthritis, heart
Hmm.
issues,
Yeah.
it's just diabetes, even cancer also. I feel like a lot of these are very much like avoidable, like over time, because it's just like,
Mhm.
given like the environment and the times that we live in, where it's just like mass consumerism, preservatives and all types of food.
Mhm.
It's not, and giving out, like, a lot of us do live in, like, lower income situations, where we need to where we, like, obviously need to, like, eat and everything, but where it's like a lot of what we get at a low at a much cheaper price, might have like certain chemicals in it that might not be good for us long term, compared to, like, more natural options, what might be a little bit more expensive, and so on. And even like the fruits that they even give us, like in the grocery stores, may have some type of growth hormone or something in it that's just like, that's just completely non-natural. It just kind of makes you think, like, how life was like, back then, where it's like we didn't have any of these options, like any of these like weird options where things just grew out the dirt and we just ate whatever, and it's just like we had to worry about long-term like cancer, all types of weird diseases and everything, jumping out of nowhere, and stuff. It just makes you think. What are your thoughts on stuff like that?
I so so what I know is I've had people that I know personally have had cancer
Hmm.
and have done a cleanse or a fast, just removing items um and adding in more plant-based items into their diet, and it has significantly changed the outcome for them. But it goes without saying, like, we live in a society, in a world where things that are unhealthy here, I mean, well, approved here through the FDA and sold on the shelves, are acceptable here, but in other countries are banned because of the toxicity and the over amounts of ingredients and chemicals that might be in the food. So if I had to look at it and just dissect it alone, the food changed when, hmm, I wouldn't want to even say like 1960s on down, but it's probably a little bit before then. Probably like maybe the late 1950s when we start seeing more and more mass produced foods that are coming out of these factories that are can live on the shelves for almost what, 6 years for some items.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like if we had to really look at the connection between our food and these overwhelming amounts of, and I have to tell you, it's like colon cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer, ovarian cancer. The cancer list has expanded to include so many varying forms of cancer. It's ridiculous. But I do very much believe that it's rooted in the food and the products and the exposure that we receive to certain chemicals, either through our food intentionally or unintentionally. So yeah, I really do believe that. If we really had to do a cleanse, if we all say the world decided, America decided to do a cleanse, let's see what actually happens. I would love to see what happens if people do that. Like, how does that change like the bodies and minds and spirits of the people here with them eating healthier options? I wonder.
Yeah, sure, man. I feel like things would be much crazier. But like from each decade, I feel like maybe like for instance in the 70s, I feel like people were a little bit more fit in the 70s. I don't think they I mean we might have a little bit more options now in regards to like, vegan and everything, and like the food might get a little bit more how can I say more intricate with the whole chemicals that they slide into every now and then. Why do you think people were more fit back then in the 70s and, upward and stuff like that? Do you think it might have something to do with just like less video games, less whatever? What's your theory on that?
I
Before
do. I feel that. I think for me, it is the increase of technology that really has changed the way that people operate. More and more people are opting to be connected to some form of tech, whether it's TV, whether it's your cell phone. And during that time, we didn't really see that. People had TVs, yes, but it wasn't like they didn't have multiple channels to watch. They didn't have streaming services. They had no cell phones attached to their hands, trying to walk out the door with everything going on. It was a lot more just, you know, pared down. It was pared down. Like right now, my students get driven to and from wherever they want to go.
hmm
They barely have a license, but they've never been on the school bus because they don't have to take the school bus because mom drops them off and picks them up. So imagine just being dropped off and picked up every single day. You never walk to school. You don't have that I've that natural inclination to move your body because
hmm
you're not set up that way. But if I had to think about 1970s, yes, we had cars, but people were really on foot a lot of the times, using their bikes a lot of the times. Their modes of transportations were very different. Their interaction with people was very different. Everyone was in person and in each other's face, as opposed to we can talk to people through like Zoom or Facebook Messenger, or even your text message right on your phone. We're creating divides into the way that we engage into this world and with other people. So of course it is definitely the reason why there's such a decline in interpersonal communication. Yeah, it's like connections are not being made. Working with others is like not something that is it's done, but it's done via uh an addition of some type of technology. So we really can see the difference between You know, my mom's generation of people really engaging and going out and being together and making it their business to be close to one another. That's another thing. Like people had blocks where they lived with each other, like where like your auntie would be 2 blocks away. You could walk to your aunt's house. Like the economy was set up in a way where you could literally buy a house or live in an apartment near family members. So we were close knit. We were walking around the corner, down the block, taking the bus if we needed to be near our relatives, our families, our friends. But now we're like, we're really spread because of the way this economy, this capitalist society works. You have to work yourself to the bone almost from 9 to 5 or 9 to 7 or what have you. And you're barely making time to be with family, to even just take a walk. It's everything's so accelerated and not as personal. It's
Yeah.
so accelerated.
I mean, yeah, but that's just the nature of like life. It's always gonna get easier. It's just like in regards to technology, making it easier. Like now we have like a phone that's basically a supercomputer in our hands. We can talk, text, and like do all sorts of things that nobody thought like we could be able to do so in the early 2000s, let alone now. So it's just
Right.
that gap of time. I just don't know how technology is gonna even get crazier in another 20 years and everything. I mean, I don't know about hoverboards or nothing like, flying cars. I hope not. I don't feel like this would be the right generation to introduce that to mass scale right now. But I feel we spoke about a whole lot of things and we got like a little bit of time listening to this recording and whatnot. But yeah, I would like to thank Aunt Camille for hopping on and everything. Seriously, this is a really, really dope episode. I feel we spoke about a whole lot of wonderful things from HBCU, from family life, spirituality and things of that nature, and even like with the diet of veganism and things of the whole. I feel like we really touched on a whole lot of bases. Do you have anything else you want to let the people know in under a minute before we go off?
Um, just be your best. Live life to the fullest. I think that's really all I got.
Okay,
Never
wonderful.
shortchange yourself.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah, that's wonderful. All right, that's it for the Mental Threads podcast. We're sewing in, and now we're sewing out.